Hello, everyone. Welcome to the April 8th regular council meeting held at 6:36. I'd like to start out by calling a roll call for who's on the call with us today. I'm going to start with Councillor Clark.
Present.
Deputy Mayor Everhardis.
Present.
Councillor Hudson.
Present.
And Councillor Smith sends his regrets as he's at work tonight. CAO Martin.
Present.
And Deputy Clerk Miracle.
Present.
Thank you. So like we did in our last teleconference, I would ask that any council member that's going to forward a motion that they use their last name. That way the deputy clerk can keep accurate track of who's calling motions. Any questions?
Not so far.
I'm hearing none. So can I get a motion, please, to adopt the agenda?
Clark, I would move such a motion.
So I have a first with Councillor Clark. May I have a seconder, please?
Everhardis second.
Thank you. I have a first and second. I have Councillor Clark and I have Deputy Mayor Everhardis. Any opposition?
Nope.
Carried. Any disclosure of interest tonight?
None.
Everhardis none.
Hearing none. Next, we have the approval of the council meeting minutes. We have the minutes for the March 9th budget council meeting. We have the minutes of the March 11th regular council. We have the minutes of March 16th special council meeting, and we have the minutes of the April 1st teleconference meeting. I will take all of that as one motion. What is council's wishes?
Everhardis move to approve.
Thank you. I have a mover with Deputy Mayor Everhardis. May I have a seconder, please?
Councillor Hudson.
And seconded by Councillor Hudson. Any opposition? Hearing none, carried. We obviously have no deputations tonight. We have nothing on the variance report. We have the approval of the account schedule 6-2020 for the amount of $359,637.24. What is council's wishes?
Clark, I would move, if found to be correct, that these invoices be paid as listed.
So I have a mover with Councillor Clark. May I have a seconder, please?
Councillor Hudson.
And seconded by Councillor Hudson. Any opposition? Hearing none, carried. Next piece of business that we have right now is we have staff reports. We have 8.1, which is the notice to be sent out to the public regarding the 2020 budget. I'm going to throw it out to the table for discussion. Does anyone have any discussion with respect to correspondence 8.1?
None, your worship.
No.
May I
No.
have a motion then to please approve?
Councillor Hudson, I'll put forward the motion.
So I have a mover and Councillor Hudson. May I have a seconder, please?
I would second that, Your Honor.
So I have a seconder with Councillor Clark. Any opposition or discussion required?
I thought it looked good.
Hearing none? Carried. Thank you very much, Councillor Hudson and Councillor Clark. The next piece of correspondence we have is the CAO report with respect to the commissionaires agreement, which is correspondence 8.2. If you notice on the back, you'll see a recommendation from the CAO. There's also price comparisons in the report with respect to our current service delivery and the costs, and the proposed service delivery and the anticipated cost of making this change. So based on the recommendation, may I get a first, please, to get it on the table?
I move that we put this on the table for discussion.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. May I have a second, please?
I would second that.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. It's now on the table. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you. Just a quick question through you to the CAO. Christine, my question is, we're sharing in a cost of a vehicle for our use between the 5 municipalities. will we be disposing of that vehicle the same way as the building inspection service disposes of a vehicle at the end of the time of its use?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Yeah. So at the end of a useful vehicle, each municipality has an opportunity in a rotation to purchase any vehicle. I noticed that we're sort of purchasing a vehicle jointly with the other municipalities. Will that be run the same way? Or can you assume it's going to be kind of run the same way when that vehicle is decommissioned? We're have an option to purchase it?
Through you, Dan, through you, Mayor Johnson, to the deputy, the $1,200 a month is a price that the commissionaires
Perfect.
is charging us to use their own vehicles.
Perfect.
The new board will discuss the possibility of purchasing a vehicle in the future.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, could I just add to that, Your Worship, or the Mayor?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, what Christine is saying is true. When we talk to the commissionaires, that price only applies until the end of this year, until December of this year, because what the board, the building inspecting board, is anticipating is next year there'll be vehicles bought for the inspectors, and those vehicles that they're using at the present time will then be used by the commissionaires. So that $1,200 a month is just until the end of this year, and then we'll see how the cost goes and what's going to happen with new vehicles for the building inspectors. And we're hoping that if we can use the vehicles that the building inspectors are presently using, then that'll take that $1,200 a month cost away from us. It'll just be gas and maintenance.
So what you're saying, Councillor Clark, is potentially in year 2 of this agreement, the municipality, the membering municipalities could possibly see a potential cost savings?
That's correct, Your Honour.
Thank you very much. Christine?
Yes?
Question with respects to the directive to council to approve of the commencement date of May 4th, 2020. If I'm not mistaken, I believe that under our current obligations that we have a duty to give 30 days, is it?
That's correct.
So this would not qualify with the commencement date of May 4th. We would have to adjust that when approving the recommendation. Unless forewarning has already been given prior to the April 4th date. I know we're only 4 days behind right now.
Maybe direction should be given tonight for that.
Okay, so what I would ask with is if we do accept the recommendation from the CAO, that direction be also given. May I get a mover, please?
Your Worship, I'm willing to move all 4 of the recommendations. Everhardis, move that we adopt. The council agrees to be a part of the new bylaw enforcement board. The council agrees to forward an upfront fee to the Township of Sterling Rawdon to manage the payment. The council agrees to share the cost of the vehicle. The council directs staff to prepare a bylaw to enter into an agreement for the next meeting that's to commence on May 4th. And I'll add also that staff are directed to inform our current service provider that we are terminating the agreement within the month.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. May I have a seconder for the deputy's motion, please?
I would second that, Your Honour.
Thank you very much, Councillor Clark. Any opposition or discussion? Do I have a mover in the deputy? I have a second by Councillor Clark. Carried. Thank you very much, Christine, for putting that together for us. Next piece of correspondence we have is 9.1. We have the Building Inspection Services Board reports for the month of February 2020. What is council's wishes?
I would move that we accept the building report, Your Honour.
Thank you very much. I have a mover and Councillor Clark. May I have a seconder, please?
Councillor Hudson, I'll second that.
And seconded by Councillor Hudson. Any opposition or discussion? Hearing none? Carried. Thank you very much. Next, we have correspondence 10.1 to and 3. They're all separate pieces of correspondence, but they pertain to the same topic. This is with respect to the set fines for offenses under the Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act that we received from the Ontario government. May I have a motion, please, to get it on the table for discussion purposes?
Everhardis, so moved.
All 3, Deputy Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. May I have a seconder, please, for the deputy's motion?
I would move that, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. It's on the table. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you. My one question here, and maybe a little more clarification. Right now, we're being asked by the Ministry and the Solicitor General to empower our bylaw enforcement personnel to enforce the COVID regulations that are made under the Emergency Act and the Declaration of Emergency. How is this going to work now that we're transitioning to a new provider? Do we still have the ability to do this, or do we need to follow through and use the OPP in this role?
I'm going to defer the question, Deputy, to the CAO because the CAO has had some conversations with all parties involved. Christine?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Johnson. So basically, the province has done this to provide business continuity to the OPP. This is not something that at this point, after speaking with Scott Semple, that they're still doing their jobs as usual, and they are going to be the ones enforcing anything. This is a backup plan for in case something drastic happens and half the OPP is COVID-19. This is not to, replace the OPP's duties, but what we can do is have bylaw enforcement just doing some patrols.
Fantastic. Thank you.
So to that point, we will have bylaw enforcement coming in over the next few days just to do patrols around town, just as friendly reminders, just to have, just to reinforce the importance of physical distancing. So we have it on the table.
I have a question.
Yes, absolutely.
Sorry, are we going to give any information to the public with regarding that this is going to be happening? Is that something I don't think we've put out yet? That there's going to be, that we're reinforcing these fines and that there'll be more bylaw patrol with regard,
Sorry,
is that something we put out to the public, or is that something that?
Well, that's
just gonna
not
happen?
really the intent of the bylaw coming in. It's more of just a public awareness campaign than it is to actually start enforcing these type of bylaws.
Okay.
But yes, to answer your question, there will be a public notice indicating that the OPP and the bylaw enforcement will be just doing a general public awareness campaign.
Perfect.
So what is council's wishes? If I have one more quick question, Your Worship, Everhardis?
Yes?
Thank you. Actually, just a sort of not a question, but a statement to make. Because the public can only hear us and not see, we're looking at fines in this that have been set by the Ontario Court of Justice between $700 and $1,000. So I just wanted to reiterate that this is pretty serious stuff because there is a state of emergency, and that, not complying with an order or obstructing a peace officer could set a resident back $750 or $1,000. Thank you.
Thank you very much for pointing that out.
Everhardis, I move that we receive this correspondence.
May I have a seconder, please, for the motion?
I would move or second the motion, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. Any opposition or further discussion? Hearing none. Carried. Next, we have correspondence requiring no action, information items. We have 11.1 through to 11.9 of various correspondence. I can take it all as one motion, or we can take them each separately. What is council's wishes?
I would move that we take them all at once, and anybody that's got any question could direct the question.
I will take your motion, Councillor Clark. May I have a seconder for that motion, please?
Everhardis, second.
So I have a seconder. Any opposition or further discussion required? Hearing none? Carried. Thank you very much. Next, we have no new business. We have no notices of motion. We have announcements. So this is normally where I go around the table asking if any council member has anything to say. I'm gonna go with alphabetical order. Councillor Clark.
No, I don't really have anything to say. I just inquiring. We're still not allowing members of the public into the office. Is that correct, Christine?
Yes.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Everhardis.
Thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to reiterate the importance of every resident who is currently not employed due to the COVID-19 crisis, that the federal government has opened up the Canadian Emergency Response Benefit. And I was doing some research. This is a pretty universal program. Workers as young as 15 years old who have been put out of work because of COVID can qualify if they have made $5,000 in 2019 or in the last 12 months. This is a program that I would really want to encourage all workers who have been put out of work due to COVID-19 and not have voluntarily quit their jobs to apply for. I think it's very important that for our residents to know that this is there, and we're doing a lot in Deseronto, but this I think is the big program that's going to get people through this tough time. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. To that point, Christine, I was on our website today. We have a lot of wonderful information COVID-19 related, and you and I were discussing the link that from the from the federal government, I believe, explaining the qualifications, similar to what the Deputy Mayor was talking about. Do we have that information currently on our website for our community to access?
Not at this time. I'll make sure it's on in the morning.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Deputy.
Thank you.
Councillor Hudson?
No announcements, Your Honor. I'm just encouraging people to find as much information as they can through our website and continuing to stay safe and healthy.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I guess my only announcement is I know how much of a struggle it's going to be for everyone everywhere to try to abide by the guidelines set out by our provincial and federal governments during this time, especially at Easter when we're all accustomed to spending time with our families. I have to ask our community and everyone in the greater community that now more than ever, we need to continue the course of action that we're on and try not to deviate from our current path. I know it's going to be tough, but I believe that we can all do it. So with that being said, I wish everybody a happy Easter and stay safe. Moving on to bylaws, I have bylaw 15.1, which is a bylaw that I'm very proud of. And I'm going to ask for the Deputy Mayor to read the bylaws as per tradition in just a moment. I'm very excited about the bylaw that's going to be read with respect to adopting the 2020 budget. I really don't think that anyone could really comprehend how much effort and work it goes into keeping a budget as lean as we do in the town of Deseronto, while still satisfying the growth opportunities that our town needs, as well as the continuance of operations within our municipalities. So with that being said, prior to the deputy reading bylaw 26-20, I just want to thank staff and I want to thank council for their diligence this year in keeping the budget in a very manageable state. The fact that we did not have to change any of our budget currently is a testament to how well it was done. So thank you to all. I really appreciate it. And the deputy, may I have you read the bylaw, please?
It's my pleasure to be reading bylaw number 2620, being a bylaw to adapt the budget for the year 2020 to provide 2020 final tax rates for properties, to provide for the collection of these 2020 taxes, and to establish penalty and interest for all unpaid taxes on due dates. And I move that this bylaw be read a first, second, and third time and finally pass this 8th day of April.
Thank you very much. May I have a seconder for that bylaw, please?
I would second that bylaw, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. I have a mover by the deputy, a seconder by Councillor Clark. Any opposition or discussion required?
None.
Hearing none. Carried. Thank you very much. Next, we have bylaw 15.2.
Bylaw 2720 being a bylaw to enter into an agreement with Her Majesty the Queen in right of the province of Ontario, represented by the Ministry of Transportation for the province of Ontario, for funding provided by the province of Ontario to the municipality under the dedicated gas tax fund for public transportation program. And I move that this bylaw be read a first, second, and third time and finally pass this 8th day of April 2020.
May I have a seconder, please?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councillor Hodgson, moved by Deputy Mayor Everhardis. Any opposition or conversation required? Hearing none. Carried. Next is correspondence 15.3, bylaw 2820.
Bylaw 2820 being a bylaw to enter into an agreement with Grandin Toy Limited for the purpose of being able to purchase office supplies for all town offices. And I move that this bylaw be read a first, second, and third time and finally pass this 8th day of April 2020.
Thank you. May I have a seconder, please?
I would second that bylaw, Your Honor.
Thank you. I have a mover and the deputy. I have a seconder with Councillor Clark. Any discussion or opposition?
None.
Hearing none?
Nope.
Carried. Thank you very much. We have no closed session items to discuss tonight. We have item number 17.1, which is bylaw 2920. May I have the deputy please read the bylaw?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Bylaw number 2920, a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the meeting of council held on the 8th day of April 2020. I move that this bylaw be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed on this 8th day of April 2020.
May I have a seconder, please?
I would second that, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. I have a mover and the deputy. I have a seconder in Councillor Clark. Any discussion or opposition? Hearing none?
No.
Carried. And lastly, we have a motion to adjourn.
I would just, before we have the motion, Your Honor, I'd just like to congratulate you on how you're leading the town at this present time, and also our staff who are doing a super job. I know the pressure's on them and they must be putting up with a lot, but I think it proves that you don't have to be a big city to work well. We have excellent staff, and we have an excellent mayor and an excellent council as well. So I want to thank everybody for all that they're doing during this terrible time. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Councillor, on behalf of myself, and I think I can speak on behalf of staff on this one. It's been our pleasure. And and as you mentioned, I've had a great team to work with. So did you give me a motion, Councillor Clark?
No, but I thought the deputy did that motion, but I will if he doesn't want to do it.
We'll defer to you, Councillor Clark, tonight.
So
I
I'll
didn't
take
get
Councillor
that.
Clark's motion for adjournment. May I have a seconder? Is that you, the deputy?
I'll second that.
Thank you very much. I suppose there's no opposition to this?
None whatsoever.
No.
Hearing none? Carried. Yeah, thank you, everyone. Have yourself a great night. Thanks, Gail. Thanks, Christine. Take care.
Right.
Thank you.
Take care.
Good
Have a great night.
everybody. Good night.